Hey, welcome to Productivity Hacks. Today I'm going to be diving into one of my favourite topics, which is books. And if you're watching this on YouTube or you've ever seen my socials, you might see my lovely colour coordinated bookshelf behind me. You'll know how much I love books. The reason I love books is because they are a fast track to another person's knowledge, to their brain. And today I'm going to be sharing 8 that have profoundly impacted the way that I live and work. These aren't just good reads, they're complete game changers and have shaped how I think about productivity, balance, purpose. I'm also going to share my top tips for getting the most out of your reading, so grab a cuppa and let's jump in. So these are my top 8 books that have changed me. They are in no particular order. Number 1, Atomic Habits by James Clear. This book has become a cornerstone for so many people in personal development, productivity, and I don't think that I could do a book review episode without mentioning it. For those that haven't read it, Atomic Habits is all about the power of small changes. James Clear explained how tiny, consistent actions can compound into remarkable transformations over time. He introduces the 4 laws of behaviour change, which are make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. And these principles are designed to help you build positive habits and break the cycle of bad ones. The idea that small wins leads to big victories resonates deeply with me and changes my all or nothing approach. Clear's concept of identity-based habits is particularly powerful. For example, instead of setting a goal to work out more, you adopt the identity of, I am someone who values fitness. And this mindset shift makes habits feel natural rather than forced. I've used this concept a lot with clients, asking them to explore the person that they want to be, and then thinking about what habits that person has. Forming good habits is a total win. It's automation for your brain, so you can use more of your conscious mind on the bigger, more important things. As a little aside note, if you're not hooked right away, just give it time. I initially set that bucket aside, but revisiting it with a fresh mindset made all the difference, and it's one of my most highlighted books on my shelf. I also really like James Clear's weekly newsletter as it is simple and thought-provoking. Since reading this book, I have been more aware of my habits, and I have used this awareness to help me change those habits I no longer need. And one of the biggest impacts of this book has been in the way I approach working through habits with my clients. Book 2, Slow Productivity by Newport. It challenges our obsession with speed and output. I read it and it resonated so much with my soul. It was almost comforting to read, like fresh water. It was like breathing mountain air. It was clarity. It was life-giving. And I know that sounds like an extreme reaction to a book, but I found myself agreeing so much with what was said. In this book, Newport challenges the productivity for productivity's sake mindset, advocating for a slower, more thoughtful approach. He emphasises prioritising meaningful long-term goals of relentless short-term outputs. And Newport also introduces strategies for minimising the overhead tax, which are the inefficiencies that arise from too many meetings, emails or task switching. Have a listen to a previous episode about what is productivity for more on that. This book provided me with permission to slow down without feeling guilty, and it is a reminder that real progress often comes from deep, focused work on fewer priorities rather than spreading ourselves too thin. What I loved about this book is its challenge about what truly is productivity, that we should measure it long term, not in the daily tick-off lists. This really broadened my mind to think of what a productive month is and year and life, and keep the focus on those bigger tasks rather than get completely blinded by the things that present themselves to me daily as urgent. My favourite quote is on page 7, where it says, "The relentless overload that's wearing us down is generated by a belief that good work requires increasing busyness. Faster responses to email and chats, more meetings, more tasks, more hours. But when we look closely at this premise, we fail to find a firm foundation." Book 3, Daring Greatly by Brené. I read this book in summer 2024 last year, and it is a transformative book about courage, vulnerability and human connection. Brené explores how embracing vulnerability is essential for living a wholehearted life. Through years of research, she illustrates how vulnerability, often seen as weakness, is actually the key to building trust, creating meaningful relationships, and achieving authentic leadership. It's a book that helps you reframe vulnerability as a strength rather than a liability. And for me, it's been a touchstone during moments when self-doubt creeps in or when I need to take a leap of faith. I highlight the sections that resonate most deeply with me and I revisit them during challenging times. And I know that every time I do, they'll feel like a pep talk from Brené herself. One thing I really admire about Brené is her foundations in science. I really enjoy hearing about new theories and concepts, but I'm always looking for the science behind it. I think it's my background as I did a Bachelor of Science in psychology, so I want to see the evidence. I can see this throughout her work and it makes it really trustworthy. And I love this from page 10. Wholehearted living is about engaging in our lives from a place of worthiness. It means cultivating the courage, compassion, and connection to wake up in the morning and think, no matter what gets done, how much is left undone, I am enough. God, is that from a productivity point of view? It's going to bed at night thinking, yes, I am imperfect and vulnerable and sometimes afraid, but that doesn't change the truth that I am also brave and worthy of love and belonging. Amazing. Book 4, my most recent book that I've read, is The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. And I think if I ever get a tattoo, it will be these simple words, let them. This book is a liberating mindset shift for overthinkers and perfectionists. Hands up, fellow overthinkers and perfectionists. Mel Robbins introduces the concept of let them, whether it's someone's opinion, behaviour or choices. She argues that we waste too much energy trying to control or fix things outside our control. Instead, we should simply let them and focus on what we can change. This simple but profound idea has helped me let go of so much. I've used this concept daily since reading it earlier in the month, and it is a great reminder that we're not responsible for other people's reactions or decisions, and also to not stop ourselves doing what we think is important for us to do because of what someone else might think or say. It's helped me with family things, where I need to let go of something when someone doesn't behave in a way I would. It's helping me parent better. Also, I did want to point out it's not about being angry and saying, I don't care. Let you do what you want to do. It's not forceful or filled with anger. It's about calmly letting go of the control you never had and saying, let them. Seriously, I'm not kidding about that tattoo. Watch this space. If you aren't sure that marking your body for life is the way to remember this, then how about writing let them on a sticky note and placing it somewhere visible? It's an instant stress reliever when you're tempted to micromanage or overanalyze. Thinking let them is something I hope to become a seriously ingrained habit in my brain. Book 5 in the list of books that have changed me is Make Change That Lasts by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. This is another book that I've read this year. I am a big Dr. Rangan Chatterjee fan, an avid listener of his podcast, and this podcast often inspires some of my book choices. In fact, I think 4 of the books on this list are inspired by guests on his podcast. In this book, Dr. Chatterjee outlines practical steps for making meaningful, lasting changes in your health, habits, and mindset. He focuses on breaking down overwhelming goals into small, achievable actions and prioritising simplicity in everyday routines. It's different to Atomic Habits, but it's very similar in some ways. And I do like how he talks about reducing our reliance on so much to feel happy, calm, and content. It was surprising how much I am reliant on to feel good, even though I think I'm a very independent person. He states that becoming minimally reliant will impact you positively in so many ways, and those around you. He also outlines that we probably know what we need to do to make the changes in our lives, like we know about the harming nature of ultra-processed food. We know about exercise and how good it is for us, but we're still not doing it. I liked this, as it wasn't more of the same stuff I read a lot, but it will help me move forward. I think I need to read it again. I read it so quickly as soon as it arrived in the new year. It was a particularly lovely book to read, as it's got a lovely feel to it, the pages are smooth, and there are gorgeous images throughout. Definitely a pleasurable experience. So this is a reassuring read for anyone who feels stuck or overwhelmed by the prospect of change. And I also strongly recommend his podcast, Feel Better, Live More, and I've started using his 3 questions journal this year, which has been really impactful. Number 6 is The Source by Dr. Tara Swart. Time for another book I love because of the science. I had read The Magic before, which is all about manifestation, and I did like it, but I always wanted to know why. Where's the science? And this is where this book comes in, which is a unique blend of neuroscience and manifestation. Dr. Swart explores how we can rewire our brains to achieve our goals. She combines scientific insights with practical exercises, such as visualization and journaling, and she helps readers align their thoughts and actions with their aspirations. This is great for anyone who loves both science and self-improvement. The actionable steps make it feel less abstract and more like a practical guide. And I must admit, I did stop reading this when it became very practical, purely because I wanted to commit the time to do it. But because I didn't schedule this in, this book has sat on my table for 6 months. I brought it out and I'm going to commit the time to do the work in Q1 this year. Apply it and I'm going to see the impact. Please hold me accountable, guys. Number 7 is The Attention Fix by Dr. Anders Hansen. I read this book a year or so ago, maybe 18 months ago, after being inspired, hearing Dr. Anders on a podcast. Yes, Feel Better, Live More. This book claims to help you learn how to focus in a world that wants to distract you, and it opened my eyes to the ways in which modern technology impacts our ability to concentrate. It's mind-blowing. Dr. Anders also offers practical strategies to regain control, from mindfulness techniques to practical tips on reducing screen time. And it seems like a manual for navigating this digital age with intention. I like this book because in a world of constant notifications and distractions, it is a wake-up call. It helped me rethink my relationship with technology and prioritise what truly matters. It's also very easy and quick to read. And guess what? It sources all the science to back it up. Chapter 3 is called Mobile Phones, Our New Drug. And he states that we touch, swipe, type or tap our phone more than 1,600 times a day. He explains why. The answer's dopamine. And how the apps on our phone use this knowledge about how the human brain works to make us addicted. I found this book scary, yet releasing. It is shocking how our phones are taking control, but also releases you from the guilt of not being able to stop because we're battling against so much. It does, however, give you tips so you can break the habits and be back in control. I have adopted loads of these tips and I feel so much better for it. So if you're concerned about your addiction to your phone, you're not alone. Read this and understand why and how to break it. And this also applies if you're a parent and you're navigating these muddy waters with your children, your teenagers. I'm a big advocate for not giving children smartphones. My daughter's only 10. Lots of her friends have smartphones. But we're going to wait. We're going to wait it out. When she goes up to secondary school, she'll get a phone, but it's likely to be a brick phone, one that she can text, she can call, but doesn't have these apps on. And she's certainly not getting social media until she's much, much older. I know it's going to be a battle for us as we do this with Rose, but it's something that I feel really passionate about and I want to protect her mental health and her future. And this is just simply something that I'm not going to compromise on. On the same theme as The Attention Fix, another book if you're interested in this kind of stuff is Digital Minimalism by Newport. I think I'm a bit of a fangirl of Newport. But following on from The Attention Fix, I read Digital Minimalism in the summer. Newport argues for a more deliberate approach to technology, that by decluttering our digital lives, we can create space for deeper connections. How much do we need this? Meaningful work and personal growth. He provides actionable strategies such as conducting a digital declutter and setting clear boundaries for tech use. I now turn my phone off on an evening. I keep it away from me. It's not about rejecting technology. I am a big, big fan of tech, but using it in a way that serves you rather than controls you. And it also helped me think about high quality leisure and how I use my leisure time in a way that helps me deeply rest and reset. I'm yet to complete a digital detox, but it is something that I would like to do, possibly in the summer holidays when I deliberately slow down work and have the holidays with the kids. I know that I am happier, calmer, and a better version of myself when I'm less connected digitally. So there you have it, my top 8 books which have had significant impact on me. Which do you like the sound of? Can you commit to reading it or listening to it on an audiobook? If you struggle to read books like this, then you're not alone, and it's okay to admit it out loud. I used to be the same. I spent some time exploring why I struggle to read these kind of books, and I realised it was because of a few things. I was either getting bored of a book and not allowing myself to move on until it was finished, meaning that I stopped reading altogether for a while, or because I felt the pressure to learn everything I could from it. I was getting overwhelmed. I even remember trying to read a book and taking notes in a notebook at the same time. It took me forever to get through a few pages. Another thing that stopped me was keeping books really precious and pristine. I wouldn't want them to look red or in a state that I couldn't pass them on to somebody. Do any of these things resonate with you, or is something else standing in your way? Perhaps spend a bit of time reflecting on this. I've since given myself more freedom in reading books. If a book isn't holding me, I stop reading it and I pick up another. And there is always another. I may come back to it in the future or not. I did this with Atomic Habits, as I've said, and there are several part-read books on my shelf. Perhaps reading those first few chapters are all I needed. I've also lifted the pressure to learn everything from a book. I read it, I highlight key things that stand out, I use sticky tabs. If it inspires a podcast episode, I make a note of this. I write all sorts in the margins, my ideas, thoughts, musings, questions, anything. And I date them, so if I reread, I know when I made those scribbles. One person once commented that they would love to read a book with my notes in, as they think my thoughts would be valuable. If they saw the random drivel I write, they may think otherwise. You can always borrow any fiction book from me, but for my learning books, look elsewhere. Thank you very much. So in summary, if you are struggling to read, here are 4 tips. Number 1, highlight and tab. Don't be afraid to mark up your books. It's how you make them your own. Number 2, write notes in the margins. Reflect on what resonates you. Number 3, revisit books. Keep the ones that feel like old friends. Don't lend them out if they're scribbled with your thoughts. And number 4, know when to pause. Not hooked? It's okay to stop and revisit later. You may have other things getting in your way and stopping you read. Exploring this with someone could help. Also, if reading isn't for you, then that's okay. You can consume things audibly or read summaries. Blinkist is a great app for summaries. Don't beat yourself up if you're not a reader. It's okay. So that's my list. Which of these books are you adding to your reading pile? Or do you have a favourite book that's changed your life? Let me know because I'd love to hear. And remember, whether you're flipping through physical pages or listening on Audible, reading is one of the best investments you can make in yourself. Next week, I will be talking about perfectionism versus good enough and asking the question, is there a middle ground? So fellow perfectionists out there, make sure to tune in. Until next time, happy reading.